Hi, my name is Drew, N1ER or N1er for you ham types. You know, I'm a lot like you. I have things in life that I love doing, and I've discovered that if you find a way to make those things intersect, life is even more awesome. You may think that hogs and ham radio can't go together. Well, I'm here to change your mind. There are other things that I enjoy doing as well. For instance, I love watching my kids play sports, play in band, and live life. I love working in ministries and with underprivileged groups. And you know what? I love Georgia Tech, the Atlanta Braves, and yes, the X-Files. I'm here to answer all sorts of questions and show you how your passions can intersect. We'll talk hogs and hams, but also drink some bourbon and play some D&D, so join me on this episode of Hogs and Hams. Hi there, N1er again. Welcome to another episode of Hogs and Hams. Today we're actually going to be talking about VEs, the volunteer examiners. We're going to talk a little bit about the process, we're going to talk about how you can become one, and we're also going to be speaking with Brandin Hess. Brandin Hess, as you might remember, he's been on the show before, is the chairman of the VE group over at the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, AARG, and he is very involved with that club. And so he is the guy that recruits the VEs, he's the guy that is the mastermind behind the online licensing system that the AARG uses, and so we're going to speak with him, and he's going to go over that process, what it looks like, and just kind of give us the ins and outs of the VE program with the AARG. But before he does that, let's talk a little bit about volunteer examiners. Volunteer examiners, or VEs as they're known, are the people that volunteer their time, hence volunteer, and they actually are the men and women that give the tests to anybody that wants to get a ham radio, amateur radio license here in the United States. There are different groups, and those groups are known as VECs, Volunteer Examiner Coordinators, that kind of oversee those groups and give the authorities on behalf of the FCC to give the test and then ultimately forward those test results to the FCC for licensing. So volunteer examiners, they're a group that, depending on the organization, there are rules in place as far as how many has to be there when a test is given, what score like you need to pass, all that's governed by the VECs. But long story short, if you're a general or above, so a general or an extra here in the United States, you can become a VE, be part of that group that volunteers their time and works at licensing people. And so it's a great way to give back to the hobby. It's a great way to make sure that the hobby lives on and that you get more people involved. It's super simple to become a VE, but we're going to let Brandin explain a little bit about the process and what that looks like. But not to leave you kind of on pins and needles. Essentially, it's a test that you have to take, and depending on the VEC, that governing authority over those VEs, they set, how many you have to get right, the time span, any sort of rules and regulations and whatnot. Super simple process, but I highly recommend looking into the VE process. Like, it's super simple, and if you're a general or above, a general or an extra, and you want to give back, you want to help grow the hobby, then this is a great way to do it. So go check out the VEs, and then let's check in with Brandin, and Brandin's going to answer a lot of your questions. Thanks. All right, everyone. I'm joined by Brandin Hess again here today, and Brandin has come in, and he's going to talk a little bit about VEs and actually what a VE is. So, Brandin, let's start off. Just give me a brief introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. It's something that I don't get to do very often, and in some cases not often enough. My name is Brandin Hess. My U.S. call sign is Whiskey Bravo 1 Bravo Romeo, or WB1BR for the non-phonetically minded individuals out there who might be watching this. My primary Canadian call is Victor Alpha 6 India Lima Sierra. That's VA6ILS. I'm an amateur extra class license holder in the United States, and I'm also a basic with honors, Morse code, and advanced qualification license holder north of the border here in Canada. So I happen to be the founder for the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, current president for the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, and chairman for our volunteer examiner program.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, specifically the VE program. How did that get started?
So it originally started in 2016. We had a group of guys in Kodiak, Alaska, who wanted to offer testing that would allow for individuals to get their licenses a little faster than who they were using previously, which was the ARRL. And of course, at that time with the ARRL, everything you had to mail out. And so I got in touch with the chairman for the Laurel VEC, and expressed to her that I was very interested in her volunteer examiner program. And as I spoke with the Laurel VEC chairman about her program, she indicated to me that we would be responsible for generating electronic submissions of the applicant data for each session, which would in turn be automatically forwarded to the FCC's electronic batch filing system, where licenses would be issued in some cases within the next hour. If I got the file down to them in time. And so that sparked a huge interest for me to go ahead and get the first volunteer examiner group going in Alaska. So it kind of started out with, originally we were a group of people, and over time and through chatting on IRC, we became a VE team first, and then shortly thereafter we became a club. So for us, it started in 2016. Now, we used the Laurel VEC explicitly for testing up until August of 2019, when we switched to the Anchorage VEC, and of course that's a whole different discussion for a totally different day. But we started out in 2016, and we started doing remote testing as a club in December of 2020, and it's been a lot of fun ever since.
That's awesome, man. So the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, the VE program. So it sounds like it's a little bit different than some other teams and options that are out there. Can you explain some of those differences? Like, what makes it unique?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'll talk about is a relaxed atmosphere. So we probably are some of the most laid-back individuals that you'll encounter when it comes to coming to see us for testing, or coming to see us or serving with us as a volunteer examiner. We poke fun at each other all the time. Some people think it's unintentional, but no, we make it intentional because it's just who we are. We enjoy doing it, and ultimately it adds to the fun. We also are very structured in our approach, and what I mean by that is we have guidelines in place that we wrote ourselves and instituted to hold us to a higher standard. So we are very organized in how we do things. And we don't just, dilly-dally as far as the service we provide. Another thing that actually sets us apart from other teams is we actually do have our own in-house exam platform, and it is capable of being used without an internet connection. And hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, after the first of the year, we'll be able to showcase that to the public and let other VE teams see that. Also, another thing that sets us apart, applicant requirements are more strict than other teams. And what I mean by that is we require specific technical things from each applicant, such as 2 fully working cameras, 1 audio feed that has to be on at all times while they're writing their exam. They have to have a suitable internet connection to support all of those feeds, the 2 video feeds, the 1 audio feed. And also we require them to have the latest version of Zoom installed. We require them to have the latest browser installed. They have to have their stuff in tip-top shape before they come see us. So we have those very strict requirements in place, and a lot of other teams don't. The other thing that I really love so much about our group and what we do is we help our examinees well beyond the exam. And what we've done is we've actually helped several new hams build antennas over a Zoom call. We have given pointers on equipment. And we've even helped a lot of these people get on the air and walk them through making their first contact on HF while we're on Zoom with them. So what sets us apart? we do more than just giving exams. We actually take time out of our busy schedules to work with them and mentor them. And a lot of volunteer examiner teams out there just are not doing that. And then the last thing that I think sets us apart from other VE teams, we are honestly like a large family, because we actually care about one another. We have an honest and legitimate desire to make sure we know how other members of our VE team are doing. And that close-knit feeling is something that seems to be absent in a lot of other VE teams out there.
Wow. That's really cool. So that antenna story, I had no idea about that. So that's really cool that y'all do that, and then you have that outreach, and you're just able to walk people through that and even making first contact. So that's really cool. So what are some of the Aurora Amateur Radio Group's, the VE program's accomplishments? Like, what would you say are the standard bearers?
Yeah, so I'll give you 5 things that I can say that we've accomplished pretty comfortably since December of last year. So the first thing I'll tell you is we have built our own paperless platform, our own paperless exam platform. We built it from scratch. We were using another exam platform when we first started remote testing, and we had so many problems with it. We couldn't get support in a timely manner. Things were breaking in the middle of exam sessions, and it frustrated us to the point of exhaustion. And so myself and another developer in our cadre came together and said, we need to do something about this. And so the platform itself started out as a simple practice exam generator, and now it's blossomed into something that's absolutely phenomenal. So another thing that we've accomplished is we have administered exams to nearly 1,000 applicants since December of 2020. Wow. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this is small potatoes for some of those teams that are doing upwards of 100 to 200 examinees per week. I get that. But given the nature of what we do and the size of our team, I mean, we're 28 VEs right now. That's the size of our team. And with the couple of days a week that we're currently offering for testing, we don't have the extensive flexibility that other teams do. So for us, this is a pretty incredible accomplishment. Another accomplishment that we have done, or another thing that we have done as a VE team for remote testing, we've administered exams to applicants in the Ukraine, the country of Jordan, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and the Middle Eastern country of Qatar, all in the last year. Also, we have successfully administered exams for 2 fully blind applicants using our exam platform. So with them using the assistance of a screen reader application called JAWS and the integration that it has with our platform, which I helped finger because I myself have strong eyesight issues. We were able to administer 2 exams to blind applicants, which I thought was phenomenal. And then also, as a group, as a VE program, we have teamed up with several major universities and high schools across the country in helping their students get exams and achieve licensure through the FCC. So we have opened the door for secondary and post-secondary institutions to send their students to us for testing, primarily due to the very unique and incredible service we provide.
So that's a really good list of things that you're currently doing. What about the group's future? Anything that people should look out for what's upcoming, what's in the pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're working on in the future is offering more options for people to test with us, and I think we've pretty much got that nailed down at this point, and I'll talk about that later. Growth in the number of VEs serving with us who share our passion and unique approach. So our goal is obviously to grow this program. Our goal is to recruit and retain additional volunteer examiners who share the same love and passion that we do for amateur radio and our willingness to serve and give back by offering exams and testing to people regardless of physical location. Another future thing that we're looking at is being a pioneer in the standardization of policy and procedure for fully remote testing. And what that means, if you look at how fully remote testing is done by other VE teams, each team will have a different set of procedures and policy in place. There's no consistency. There has never been consistency due to lack of communication among other volunteer examiner coordinators, and it's caused this bowl of spaghetti concept of VE teams just coming up with their own way of doing things and thinking it works. I won't be bashful. I'll say that a lot of teams out there who offer fully remote testing, in my humble opinion, are not doing it right. So our plan is being that pioneer and creating a standardized set of procedures to be hard-coded in Part 97 of the Commission's rules to to set the precedence for fully remote testing to ensure that everybody is doing it the exact same, regardless of who you go and see. I can't control how you'll be treated by the VE team once you get there, but our plan is to standardize it to the extent where it's going to be the same regardless of where you go, other than how you might be treated before, during, and after. Again, I have no control of that. Unless it's my group, that's a whole different topic of discussion, but we'll talk about that some other day. And then another thing that we're looking at doing, another future endeavor of ours, is raising public awareness on our unique approach to exam sessions as a template for all. So what I mean by that is we have a very laid-back approach as far as how we treat our examinees. We have a laid-back approach as far as how we interact with our VEs, as far as how our VEs interact with each other. And we have a very interesting way of relaxing the examinees prior to them coming and taking a test. It's not like some of these large sessions that other clubs and teams are having, where they've got hundreds of applicants and you picture them being run through a sawmill. They come in a log and they come out a 2x4, and there's no in between. There's no full interaction between them and the volunteer examiners. In some cases, some of these people don't even get congratulated for passing their test. I mean, literally, they're given the results. The VEs are certifying the results before they even finish reading the results out, and they're sent on their merry way. I have a huge problem with that. So I want to ensure that regardless of who you go see, examinees are still getting that quality experience that we have been able to offer since the day we first started doing this.
And so one thing that I applaud you for, because licensing really is the portal to the hobby, and, people are already drawing conclusions. They're already, preconceiving notions based off the people that they meet that are already involved in the hobby. So I applaud you for, trying to take that extra special touch, build those relationships, and just kind of, start building those bridges, because ultimately that's what's going to keep people in the hobby. So, yeah, totally understand that. All right, so I'm watching this video. It sounds like this VE program is kind of a cool thing. I'm interested in getting involved with the Aurora Amateur Radio Group. What does that process look like?
Absolutely. Good question. That's actually something people ask me all the time, for those that do take a minute to ask. The first and most important thing at the moment is you need to be accredited with the ARRL VEC. So we have a working agreement with the ARRL VEC. That's who we're using to send all of our documentation to. That's our coordinating VEC at this particular time. So, in order to join us, that's the number one thing, is to become a VE with the ARRL. If you're already an ARRL VE, well, that just saves you a little bit of extra time. So once you become accredited with the ARRL VEC, then what happens is you'll apply through our website to join. You'll answer some questions relating to your general availability, some questions relating to your moral character, how you can be an asset to us as opposed to a liability. And then once I get all of that, I will then verify your accreditation with the ARRL VEC. I will also spend a little bit of time on the telephone and talk to you a little bit about our program, and just kind of get a feel as to where you want to be relating to your desire to serve with us. I don't approve every application. I will be honest. I do not, because some individuals do have a very malice intent to try to hurt a program like this by trying to get in and see how we do things and just try to destroy it from within. And that's something that we do not allow. I will not allow that to happen. And so as part of my vetting process, I get that feel as to where they want to be and what they want to do for us and how they feel they could help us. And some people, I get a not so warm and fuzzy feeling while I'm talking to them, and I simply give, I just simply say I'll need to think about it, and then typically a day or two later I'll email them and say I have to deny your application and your request to join us. So I have done that for several people in the past, and I hate saying no, but I have to make sure that the people we have are those who are a good match for our program. So I do speak with you on the telephone. It takes about 30 minutes of your time. If you don't have 30 minutes, then tell me when you do have 30 minutes or so to speak to me on the telephone, and then I sit down and I don't grill you. I don't interrogate you. I have paid professionals that'll do that, and for a very small nominal fee, I'm sure I can get any answer I want. HI. But at the end of the day, look, I want to make sure that I've got good people with honest and heartfelt intention to serve with us and actually be a part of our family, as opposed to being a degradation and causing issues with us down the road. I don't have time for it, and nor does the rest of my team.
So you're the chairman of this group. You're the head honcho. The buck stops with you. So I know you're going to be a little bit biased on this question, but I'm a licensee. Why should I consider joining your radio group as a VE?
Well, of course, being a very deep subject. I would say the first thing I'll tell you that I think is probably the most logical answer I'll give you. We have smaller sessions, so we're not like VE teams that are with the larger VEs. We're not like the larger VE teams where they're doing hundreds of applicants a week, where they start at 8 o'clock in the morning and they don't get done with testing until 5 in the evening. Look, I will never put you through that, and if somebody asks me to put you through it, I'm going to have a very stern conversation with them, because to me that's just ridiculous. No person should be spending that much time of their day to be doing testing. I want you to have the freedom to do what you need to do, and the flexibility to do it when you need to. So we offer smaller sessions explicitly for that purpose. I don't want my VEs getting wore out. I don't want my VEs getting tired. I don't want them to have that burnout that a lot of people get when they're involved with 15 or 20 different things amateur radio related. They burn out because they're just so overwhelmed with things to do, and they don't have time to take care of themselves. So that's part of what makes us different. We have smaller sessions. As I've mentioned before, we have a very relaxed, caring, and a tremendous family environment. It's something that I've attended sessions with other volunteer examiner coordinators and with other VE teams, and I'm going to tell you, it was probably disorganized chaos is a good way to put it. Disorganized chaos. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. We have a service to provide. These people want to get their test, and so I feel it's imperative upon myself as the chairman for our club chairman for our program to ensure that service is provided to the greatest extent possible and to the highest level of professionalism in us doing what we do. So that all comes to higher level of adherence to FCC rules. Well, we follow the rules from the commission set forth in Part 97, Subpart F, which is Qualifying Examination Systems. You can read it. It's a short read. But that sets the precedence for amateur radio license testing in the United States. And so we follow that literally to the letter, because we know if we don't, we know what happens if it's not followed. And so we maintain a very high standard in that. And then the last thing I would say that I think would set us apart, we have a very structured environment. And if you don't have structure, things get disorganized. And I've seen that with other teams and other volunteer examiner coordinators who are doing this. It just turns into a zoo. And I don't have time for that. The examinees don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. It leads to negative feedback. And look, I'm sorry, but we have a service to provide, and if we can't do it right the first time, then we need to stop doing it. And that's what it boils down to. So I feel that we fill that need incredibly well. And given that we actually take time to spend with the examinees afterwards and chat with them and answer any of their amateur radio related questions, look, we call that part of the Aurora touch, and it's something that you're not going to find anywhere else. And I'm proud to offer it. It's very near and dear to me, and mm-hmm. I don't care what anybody says. I will continue offering the Aurora touch until it's no more. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see that going away anytime soon. So the ball's still rolling, so let's just keep going with it.
Gotcha. So on a personal level, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit, mm-hmm. but why do you, Brandin, put the blood, sweat, and tears into the program? And, it appears as though, there's a bunch of programs out there, right? I can go down the street and do an in-person session. There's a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but there's quite a few programs online that maybe I could do a remote session with. But what do you personally get out of this, Brandin?
I get the gratification of several things. Number one, I get the gratification of the opportunity of a lifetime, which is to serve and give back. Mm-hmm. I did a term of service in the United States Armed Forces. I rose my right hand and I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And in that service, I was committed to a cause. Mm-hmm. And I feel that with our organization that I helped start and I'm the founder of, I feel that now more than ever, we have an even greater cause to serve North America's underserved, serve people who are inconvenienced by in-person exams being so far away. Mm. The opportunity to give back in an aspect of my life that is so near and dear to me. I have given it all to make it happen. I have made some very incredible sacrifices to make this happen. And it's, to me, the whole concept of, watching somebody come in, write an exam, have a passing score, walk out with a certificate of successful completion of examination is something to me that brings probably one of the greatest amounts of joy in my life at this particular moment. Mm. And I don't think that'll ever die for as long as I live. Mm. What I'm doing right now through our organization, our club, our VE program, and through the VE cadre that I currently have on my roster, I'm doing something that I'm offering a very delicate service that was never offered to me when I got my license. None of this was available when I got my license. Mm-hmm. I had to drive. I had to go take a seat at an in-person exam and fill out a bubble sheet. I didn't have any of this available to me. And even after I got my extra class license and I became a volunteer examiner, one of the first things that came to mind, even at that time, was, why aren't we doing this electronically? Mm-hmm. It drove me nuts for years. Mm-hmm. And as I learned the ways of being a volunteer examiner, being very optimistic about the future, which I always will be optimistic about it. Maintaining that level of very, very finite direction, pointed towards a goal that is honestly bigger than myself. It's bigger than all of us. Of providing a service through a means that can be accessed anywhere in the world. And I think it's safe to say, for the first time since I've started serving as a volunteer examiner, we now have that. And I can't even tell you the thousands of hours that have happened, that have been spent on bringing this to fruition. This, honestly, for me, started out as a dream. It was literally a dream. And it's come true. And a lot of people, I think what it boils down to is, for as much as this means to me, I see it rub off on people. And the one thing I tell people, if you've got a dream and you might think it's impossible, follow it. Just literally follow it to the T. And I promise you, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen next week, but eventually, if you're persistent and you stick with it, your dreams will come true. And in this particular case, for me, it did. And so the desire I have to do this, and the desire I have to bring people into this program who share the same love and desire that I have for this, is something that is so near and dear to me that, look, I'm willing to pour my heart out for it. And if somebody doesn't realize it by now that I'm very passionate about this, then they'll never get it. Sorry, it's just the way it is. So, I love doing this. It's a huge part of my life, and I think I spend more time doing this than I do with anything else. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't trade this for the world. And so that's why it's so near and dear to me, and that's why I'll never stop doing this, regardless of my health. I'll never stop doing this, and I think people realize that by now.
That's awesome, Brandon. Like, my YouTube channel is all about finding your passions in life. And so that's why I love talking to you. That's why I love interviewing you, is because this is your passion. And you found that passion, and I congratulate you 100%. And I'm sure the 1,000+ people that have gone through your service and have gotten licensed would say the same thing. Thank you for having that passion. So, thank you for that, Brandon. I do have one follow-up question, actually, and I had forgotten about this, but it was somebody had asked a question. And this isn't something, I guess, that you get rich doing, right? I know that there's a nominal fee. There's a nominal fee that y'all charge in order to give the test. But my understanding is it's totally volunteer. The VEs don't get paid. Like, no one's getting rich off this, correct?
That's a very laughable question, because, brother, no, we don't get paid anything.
Yeah.
Look, I don't get paid a cent for doing this. And nobody does.
Correct.
And if somebody's getting paid, then I want to know who they are, because they're doing something wrong. Look. We're doing a service.
Yes.
And the way I see it, we should be doing that service out of the kindness of our own hearts, because we want this hobby to thrive. We want this service to thrive.
Yes.
And if the service does not thrive, guess what happens? It dies.
Correct.
So many things that have been born, that have been born in the last 50 to 60 years, were amazing and incredible concepts. And in the very beginning, they had such tremendous support. And as time progressed, that support faded away. And guess what happened? It died. It died, and so did the people who founded whatever it was, that passion of theirs. It just died. It went away. And I don't care what that passion is in life. I don't care, and when it comes to this service, look, we have, as the gatekeepers, air quotes, for amateur radio in the United States, we have a duty to ensure the people who are coming into this hobby, who are wanting to join the amateur radio family, have the understanding that in order for them to get licensed, there are rules, regulations, and procedures that have to be followed before they walk out the door with a certificate in their hands. And part of what we do, all volunteer. There's not, again, we're not paid for it. I mean, trust me, I don't want to be paid for this. What we do is, through our common interest and our love and passion for the amateur radio service, we are the gatekeepers to ensuring that we are giving exams to people who have proven that they have studied the material, to pass the exam and earn the license. Earn being the key word. Earn the license that they have come to write their exam for. Any other way of trying to get into this hobby, in my humble opinion, it's illegal, and I will not stand for it. So part of what we do, again, at the cost of $0, meaning we don't get paid, is to ensure that people who are coming into this amateur radio service, especially through our organization, they come to us and write their exams with honesty and integrity. And those are two things that we stand behind 110%. And again, I don't get paid for it. And I'm sorry if that bothers people, but that's just the way it is. And if somebody sat here and offered me $1 million a year to do it, I would have to laughingly turn them down, because I'm not in it for the money, and nor should anybody else. So that's what I've got for you.
That's awesome. And there you go, folks, out of like the horse's mouth. Like, it truly is passion. It's not about anything else. And so kind of with that in mind, Brandin, first of all, I just want to say thank you for, answering the questions and joining us. Do you have any final thoughts for people that may be watching, that maybe they're interested in joining the group or the VE program, or maybe coming to get their license, but any parting thoughts?
Yeah, so a few things. To start, for those watching this and have made it this far, thank you so much for your patience. You have the patience of Job, and you definitely have found this interesting enough to watch it to the very end. And I applaud your efforts, and I applaud your willingness to do that. And truly, it means a lot to me. And I don't care what anybody says; I still think you're all right. So, look. The Aurora Amateur Radio Group Volunteer Examiner Program is a group of men and women who have come together with one common cause, and that is to share their passion for amateur radio through their willingness to serve, through their willingness to administer exams, and their willingness to mentor others and get them into the amateur radio service. We are a family. Some people might call it dysfunctional, but I don't care. Say what you want. But we are like a very big family. Like I've said before, we have a care for each other that is above and beyond what you'll ever see anywhere else. And for those who are thinking about wanting to serve or wanting to put their volunteer examiner credentials to good use, I think if you come to see us and you start serving with us, you'll find yourself right at home. And that's the feeling that I want you to be left with. And I believe you will have that feeling for each exam that you attend with us. You'll have that feeling. You'll have that down home, relaxed feeling. And I think any one of my volunteer examiners in my cadre, if you were to ask them, how do you feel as far as your willingness to serve, and how do you feel about the environment and the leadership involved with making this all happen, I don't have a single volunteer in my cadre. I don't have a single VE in my cadre that would say, well, it's a miserable experience, you can't do it. No, they're all going to tell you almost the exact same thing. We love doing this. This is a big family, and we love what we do. And so, my passion has rubbed off on a lot of people who were kind of questionable at the very beginning. So we are unique. We are different, that we are like a large family. And so if you're a potential examinee, look, there are many groups out there that'll offer this to you. And I do not shun somebody for going to somebody else and taking a test. To be honest with you, and to be fair, I don't care how you get your license or who you test with. My biggest passion for potential examinees or potential licensees is seeing you put that license to good use, getting on the air with it, making those contacts that you'll never forget for the rest of your life, and providing that mentorship to you that a lot of other clubs in this country fail to provide. Mm-hmm. So we put all of that in a package deal. I mean, look, you can't beat that with the stick. Even an ugly stick, you can't beat it with it. So look, this is my parting words are this. Give us a try, and if you're not satisfied, I'll give you your money back. If you're a VE of $0, I will give you your money back, all because I do care. Look, I love what I do. We love what we do, and If you don't experience that during your first few sessions with us, I don't know what to say. This is truly for us, this is more of a movement than anything else. And when I say movement, we have a passion to serve areas of North America that cannot be served by other VE teams due to bandwidth restrictions or platform restrictions. We have the platform to do it. If you want to take a part of this, I'm looking for you. And most importantly, I am looking for volunteer examiners all the time, but I'm looking for volunteer examiners who live in the Pacific time zone. I'm looking for volunteer examiners who are in the Alaska time zone, who live in Hawaii, or who live in one of the Pacific Islands way out west. I'm looking for you because we're wanting to expand our capabilities to that area of the world, and your willingness to serve with us and be a part of our family will allow for us to expand. And I'm telling you right now, once you get started, you'll be very grateful you came to see us, and that's my promise to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brandon, for your time. I really do appreciate talking with you. And I will be sure to put the link to the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, and the link will be below in the comments, and then also your email address in case people have questions, they can contact you directly. But thank you very much. And as always, pleasure talking to you, Brandon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate you sitting down and giving up your time to come on and talk about the AARGVE group and everything that y'all are doing. So thank you, Brandon, for that. I appreciate it. And that concludes today's episode. But before we sign off, let's talk about our to-go nugget. All right, so the intersection that kind of Brandon alluded to here a little bit. What is the intersection that I want y'all to keep in mind kind of going through? Why, I want to ask you this question, and I want you to think about it in your head. Why do you do amateur radio? Like, what fun do you get out of it? Now, every person's going to have a different answer. I'm going to give you two things that I get out of amateur radio, besides some of the other things that I've talked on the episodes. Number one, QSL cards. I love getting those cards. You can't see it right now, but right back here on this white door, I have just a wallpaper of all my QSL cards. So that's one reason that I love doing amateur radio. I love people that share those cards, and I love sending mine off. So that's one thing that I love doing. The second thing is actually getting out there and meeting other hammers, other people that do amateur radio. They're great people. I have some great friends and great people that I've met, and it's kind of a non-traditional way to meet people, right? So after that interview, I was actually telling Brandon a story about my grandfather. Whiskey 4 GBX, Golf Victor X-Ray was my grandfather. He's a silent key now. But I remember growing up and talking to my granddad and about amateur radio, and I remember he would always get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, like he'd go to bed early, but he got up at 4 o'clock every morning. So one morning I walk out and he's on the radio, nothing new there, and I noticed that he was talking to someone that was a foreigner, and they had an Asian accent. And my grandfather fought in World War II. He was a communications officer on a destroyer, but that's how he originally got into radio. But who I found out that he was talking to later on was a guy that was one of his best friends in amateur radio that was from Japan. And I remember asking him this. I'm like, Granddad, weren't you in a war where you were fighting against the Japanese? Like, how is this guy your best friend? And he said, the war was in the past, but ham radio has made us friends now. And I remember thinking to myself, what a wonderful thing. Like in this little simple hobby of just turning on a radio and being able to communicate with people, that if my grandfather can kind of overcome that, where, he's in a war, he's battling, and then this radio many years later can kind of salve those wounds and kind of heal that. And now he calls, a guy that he's probably never met. In fact, I'm pretty sure he never met this guy, and I wish I knew his name. I wish I remember his name. But he would talk to this guy every morning, and they became best friends. And who knows, maybe their families were enemies. Maybe they were enemies way back when. But it didn't matter now because ham radio brought them together. And so that's the intersection here. And Brandon touched on it. But becoming a VE, becoming a person that is giving back in the licensing process. It's a great way to meet other amateur radio people. And in my time as a VE with the AARG, like I've met some great people. I enjoy hanging out with them every week, and some people that, I call friends. I love hearing the stories. I love laughing. It really is a family. And Brandon, when he says that the AARG, the VE group are, like family, they're great friends, that is 100% true. Maybe it's not the AARG, maybe it's another group that's closer to your town, maybe it's a different group that you're part of. But I encourage you to engage with some fellow amateur radio people, some fellow hammers. Get out there, make some friends, and it really is about the relationships. And that's the intersection for me. That's the to-go nugget for you. Ham radio, friendships, and just kind of that family thing. Thank y'all for joining me on this episode. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever time that it is, and we'll see you next time on Hogs and Hams.